Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing the news untold stories. I'm Star Smart. Let's begin. As the June Parliamentary session opens today, here are some burning issues begging for the brainwashed CPDM Member of Parliament's attention, except the colonial Republic of Cameroon's parliament continues its bloodletting modus operandi. One of the most pressing issues is the failed La Republic is the ongoing conflict, the 7-year war of independence taking lives of innocent Ambazonians. The crisis that began in 2016 and has escalated into a violent conflict that has displaced hundreds of thousands of people and resulted in numerous deaths, over 40,000 and counting. The colonial La Republic's National Assembly, if not for its rubber stamp and hand-clapping nature, could focus on finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict and addressing the root causes of the conflict. But unfortunately, that is not the case, and Ambazonians have as well long lost hope in this sect. We wonder if it's this lost hope in their supposed leaders that led the Amazonian Restoration Forces of Kejom Keku, Big Babanki, of Tuba local government area to ban the CPDM fund of the village, His Royal Highness Benjamin Futsibong Fubansi, from entering the village that is supposed to be his. Well, we'll find out more about these in the full briefings of Undaunted tonight, coming right after the prime headlines.
These are the prime headlines for today. The Nizis of Mbengui local government area at loggerheads with the colonial DO. While the midland zone of Ambazonia has been deprived of a football pitch, while the Bamenda Municipal Stadium has become an abandoned treasure. Bamenda population faces stench of garbage on a regular basis. Also tonight, laid-off workers of the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company strikes over unpaid salaries. The CPDM fund of Babanki Tuber local government area has been banned from entering his village. The Ambazonia Restoration Forces of Donga Matun County has launched a preemptive attack from two fronts. Well, tonight we would see that, and all the African scene, we're going to be seeing the conflict outweighing peacekeeping. Well, all the foreign scene, we still have reports from Russia and Ukraine as Germany refuses the Tyros missiles deliveries to Ukraine. Now let's get the news in detail.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella.
Keep standing with you.
latest Nigerian stroke African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, fronting IG and people of Ambazonia's position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is wealth, health education and awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation prayer and intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba. Our freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando. Church and politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
On Tuesday, we brought you a report of the sealing of shops by the colonial DO of Mbengui. While the bone of contention is the sealing of shops by this La Republic de Cameroon colonial divisional officer who has joined hands with Joe Ayaba's ADF on the imposition of hardship on innocent denizens. Well, sad news reaching ABC Amber TV says the colonial La Republic de Cameroon DO of Mbengui, Ngida Lawrence Che, has descended on shop stealing and after traders who failed to shop at the famous and popular Mbo market on the traditional rest day in Amberland. He decreed by the people's interim government. Now, this is where we begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. How are you doing, Steph?
Very well, Onyi. This information is coming at a time when the ADF that works hand in glove with the Yaoundé junta also announced that the road that has been in use since the main road to Mbengui was blocked will not be used anymore from Tuesday, that is May 6, 2023. The recent sealing of shops in Mbengui local government area is coming not long after many shops were sealed by the said colonial divisional officer, plunging the population into serious hardship as the shop owners decided that they will not open in solidarity with the interim government call in respect of every Monday ghost towns. Undaunted gathered that the colonial DO has vowed to stop the ghost towns in Mbengui local government area, while the Amazonian Restoration Forces have also stood their ground that nothing will move in and out of Mbengui local government areas on Mondays.
Well, moving on. What excuse will La Republic de Cameroon give for the fact that there is no football field in the Midland zone of Ambazonia, while deprived Bamenda a town with many elite teams of a football field. The Bamenda Municipal Stadium, that is now abandoned, has a long-standing history to the people of Bamenda in particular and to the entire Atlantic and Savannah zones of Amazonia in general.
Well, the field was in good shape, accommodating all football games, crusade, and trade fairs. In fact, the municipal stadium was the pride of the people of southern Cameroons of the Midland Zone. The stadium of Bamenda, one of the oldest in the Cameroons. In the absence of reliable files, it is believed its construction took place during the 1960s. At this time, it was one of the projects by the Municipal Department of Public Works to promote the sport in Bamenda. That ambition kept growing until the setting up of a team of football, the Public Works Department, PWD of Bamenda. But today, the value of the favored club of Bamenda is mixed with the lamentable state of its stadium.
Well, despite the dilapidated nature of the infrastructure, the different pitches, be it football, handball, and basketball pitches, were still being used by the population and clubs, given that there was no alternative till 2016. On April 20th, 2016, the president of the Cameroon's Football Federation, FECAFOOT, Chombi A. Roko Sidiki, accompanied by the colonial governor of the Northwest region, Adolphe Lely Afrique, laid the foundation stone of what was described as the Bamenda Olympic Stadium. 7 years down the road, the foundation stone is nowhere to be found. Works have been long halted, just months into the project, and some materials still packed in the stadium are depreciating.
Well, iron, seats, and other materials are parked in the stadium, and a section of it is now being used to rear animals. The Dan Bamenda Municipal Stadium, which used to record the highest attendance in the championship, is now a shadow of itself. Just like the promised ring road in 1985, the Bamenda Municipal Stadium is based on the same promises. Elite clubs of the zone, the likes of PWD Social Club, Bamenda, and Young Sports Academy, survived relegations by a stroke of luck during the last football session.
While these clubs have deprived the support of their home fans, as all their home games were hosted by the neighboring La Republic du Cameroon region. Another marginalization against the Amazonian athletes and punishment, as these clubs had to spend more even on matches considered home games. Since 2016, when the poor yet existing infrastructure was demolished in the name of a giant realization, all the people of Amazonia from this era have been getting from La Republic du Cameroon top government officials are just promises. 2018, on a so-called peace caravan by the in-house leave Prime Minister of La Republique du Cameroon, Dr. Joseph Dion Ngutetu Bamenda, he promised the population that the moment he goes to Yaoundé, he will ensure the lifting of what is blocking the continuation works on the Bamenda Municipal Stadium for works to start immediately.
Meanwhile, 5 years later, it is still like his to reach Yaoundé. Why should La Republic destroy what they cannot build? It could have been better for the field to remain the way it was before La Republic agents entered in 2016 to dig holes all over in the name of a Bamenda Olympic Stadium. Then football lovers would still have the possibility of seeing their clubs play in front of them.
Well, moving on, the city of Bamenda, which was one time before the ongoing war rated the cleanest city in the Cameroons, is today far from that position. Seeing the inability of the slave master in Bamenda, the colonial administrators of La Republique du Cameroon in management ways, shows that they can no longer hold again. La Republique du Cameroon has no control and command over Amazonia in general and Bamenda in particular.
Well, the clean and unpolluted streets that the people of Bamenda enjoyed have been destroyed by the colonial tendencies of La Republique in Amazonia and have been worsened by the war Paul Biya declared in 2017 on the people of southern Cameroon's Amazonia. The in-house slave Paul Achombong, colonial Bamenda city mayor, who, upon taking office, said his priority project was to keep the city clean, it has gone underground. Given that the Colonial City Council is no longer playing its role in waste management in the city of Bamenda, where are the funds allocated for this purpose going? Where are they going?
Well, before the ongoing war, the city council was in charge of waste management in Bamenda, which was through a waste management agency, Haisakam. When the crisis erupted and Amazonia took charge of their affairs, Haisakam failed to accept that powers had changed hands by not being willing to comply with the prescriptions of the Amazonian fighters. With these, the Amazonian fighters made working difficult for them and they were forced to quit.
Well, in January 2017, Hisakam stopped her activities in Bamenda. La Republic du Cameroon soldiers of the Colonial 5th Military Region took the challenge for the cleanup mission, a mission they abandoned without going around the city once. Then came the pioneer colonial city mayor of Bamenda, in-house slave Paula Chambong. Paula Chambong, a minister of the church as well, who believes that cleanliness is next to godliness. Upon taking office, he stated that his priority project was to have the city clean.
Well, in an attempt to hypnotize the population in 2020, he led a team that went clearing a stream of garbage in the Abango neighborhood. That it was a start to clean the city and prevent disease infection. Little did the people know that it was his first and last action for a clean Bamenda city. Heap of garbage keeps growing on different road junctions in Bamenda on a daily basis. And in-house slave Paul Achombong and his colonial Bamenda City Council is nowhere to be found. Well, in another development, ABC Amber TV has confirmed that the erstwhile charismatic national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, SDF, Ni John Fundi, will not stand as a candidate for the upcoming elective convention scheduled for the 28th of July and 29th of July 2023. Created in 1990 principally to fight their Anglophone cause, the party suddenly derailed due to the avaricious and inordinate greediness of the leadership. The party and its leadership shall never be abandoned for auctioning the manifesto to La Republic du Cameroon and woefully failing to meet their aspiration of the peace 33 years ago.
Well, its miscalculation not to go for parliamentary elections in 1991 gave a leeway to traitor Bello Buba Megari, and in 1992, Frondi's presidential win was seized by the French. The SDF later dwindled from 43 members of parliament to a shadowy 5 today. Frondi's stand was confirmed during the National Executive Committee, the NEC meeting, which took place in Yaoundé on Saturday, June the 3rd, 2023. This decision will be marked as history in La Republic du Cameroon since the existence of the CPDMI's political parties. The first vice chairman of SDF, Honorable Joshua Osi, stated that the National Executive Committee meeting was aimed at focusing on finalizing works on reorganizing the basic organs of the CPDM ally party that has shaped the political dispensation of La Republic's political history. With that daydreaming, Honorable Joshua C. disclosed, the party is strong and alive. There is no place where our mobilization team has gone to and they did not meet mobilization. Everywhere we have people vying for positions, and we are very confident that before the convention, all our 10 regions will be reorganized and the party will be ready for a fresh start.
Joshua C. added that although the party has lost some members due to death, they will not relent in pushing forward the party's agenda. And ABC Amber TV adds here that many have resigned because the leadership auctioned their manifesto. Well, he said you build a political party to grow, but from time to time, people resign. People get into situations and unfortunately, causes of death. What is important in the party is to continue recruiting people, giving hope to the Cameroonian people, and working relentlessly to make sure that the party can bring about its agenda for change in the Cameroons.
Now let's take it further to the unpaid salaries in La Republic. According to the colonial La Republic du Cameroon, all southern Cameroons are too round to fit into a square hole. This implies that there is no Southern Cameroon who is by nature qualified to occupy lucrative positions with the BS government. The La Republic's government prefers an incompetent francophone to occupy a key position over a qualified Southern Cameroonian. On the other hand, the regime will bring in an unqualified Southern Cameroonian to play the role of a figurehead that they will easily manipulate. For example, the present La Republic Colonial Territorial Administration Minister, in-house slave Paul Atanga Ng, who is a school dropout.
While the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company, also known as Chantier Naval, since its inception has had an Ambazonia as the best director in the name of Zacchaeus Fongidam. Fongidam was framed by the Bulu barons and slammed with a life prison jail term by the corrupt colonial Warri High Court. It could be stated without fear of contradiction that Fongidam's problem started when La République du Cameroon's head of state, Paul Biya, publicly congratulated him in his end-of-year State of the Nation's address. Immediately, the colonial La République du Cameroon head of state congratulated Fongidam for taking Chantier Naval from a limping structure to a good institution that attracted international acclaim and clientele. Many people who ignored Chantier Naval and Fongidam now turned their attention to their structure.
Well, the problem was to evict Fongidam from Chantier Naval, thinking that their mere being appointed to run Chantier Naval was to put them on focus and attract the attention of the head of state. Those who had this envy did not know that the colonial La Republic's head of state congratulated Fongidam because he was hardworking and was doing a great job at Chantier Naval. Fongidam took Chantier Naval from scratch and made it an enviable structure. Chantier Naval is a state-owned public company that was created on February 5, 1988. It is specialized in ship repair and construction, onshore, offshore petroleum works, and platform rehabilitation. However, the idea and vision for an eventual shipbuilding company in Cameroon were hatched in 1979 when some 10,000 tons of materials was shipped from Germany under the auspices of the then Office National des Poteries du Cameroun for the future dockyard. Now, Chantier Naval started commercial activities repairing ships in July 1988. The Cameroon's National Hydrocarbon Corporation (SNH) bought 86% of the shares of Chantier Naval after the withdrawal of the French partners. Fongidam, who had been with the project since 1984, was appointed Director General in 1996.
When most La République du Cameroon state-owned companies were being privatized in the Cameroons, Fongidam, through his hard work, prevented the privatization of Chantier Naval in September 2004. On the sidelines, he caused Chantier Naval to buy a private company, URC, that repaired petroleum platforms at 2.1 million francs CFA. By 2008, when Fongidam left Chantier Naval, the structure had attracted international platforms, employed close to 2,800 workers, and they were paid regularly, and of course, making 400 billion francs CFA. Just a year into Bikoro's stewardship, all the trained engineers resigned while the workforce dwindled to a mere 700. The company was making less than 6 billion francs CFA. Strikes have become the order of the day, and the colonial La République du Cameroon head of state has had to appoint expert trades to struggle to improve the situation to no avail. From the above analysis, it can be concluded that Fongidam had to be sacrificed by some regime barons for their selfish aims and not for the health of Chantier Naval.
Well, ex-temporal workers of the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company Chantier Naval stormed the premises of the in-house slave Prime Minister's office on Wednesday morning, yesterday, June 7, 2023, to mount pressure on the La Republic's government to pay dues owed to them. If Bia's best general manager can be in jail, then what hope is left for Cameroons? It is a fact that the said Mr. Forjadam made Chantier Naval what it is almost single-handedly. What could he have done in under a year after having been declared by the number one personality in the Cameroons as the best manager?
Well, why has the La Republic du Cameroon head of state remained quiet in the face of the adversity that has befallen Fojidam? Is President Biya unaware of the blackmail against Fojidam? Can Biya not go out of his way to find the truth? He was conspired against just because he was an Amazonian. The Douala Central Prison at New Bell Quarter certainly has locked up the solution to the problems faced by Chantier Naval. The downfall of Fondidam is not only a great national tragedy for a man with such a supreme talent in management and engineering, but also a tremendous blow to Southern Cameroon's participation in Cameroon's developmental plans.
Well, ex-temporal workers of the National Shipyard called Chantier Naval stormed the premises of the Prime Minister's office on Wednesday, as said, to mount pressure on the government to pay dues owed to them. Amongst other things, the workers denounced the silence of La Republic's government authorities since 2019. The strike, which started over a week ago, has remained unresolved despite the decision of the disgruntled workers to march from Douala to Yaoundé, the capital city.
Well, they had promised to protest in front of the Colonial Prime Minister's office from June 6 to 8, 2023. The dues owed them amounted to over 1 billion francs CFA. 562 families are affected, as found on one of the banners brandished by the ex-temporal workers. From every indication, the secret of the success of Chantier Naval is locked up for life imprisonment, implying that Chantier Naval there is no future for the institution.
Let's take a look at the upcoming parliamentary session this June. Well, as the June parliamentary session opens today, here are some burning issues begging for the brainwashed CPDM's Member of Parliament's attention. Unfortunately, though, the Colonial La Republic's parliament continues its bloodletting modus operandi, one of the most pressing issues in the failed La Republic, the ongoing conflict, the 7-year-long war of independence taking lives of innocent Amazonians.
Well, this war, which began in 2016, has escalated into a violent conflict that has displaced hundreds of thousands of people in numerous deaths, over 45,000 and counting. The Colonial La Republic du Cameroon's National Assembly, if not for its rubber stamp and hand-clapping nature, could focus on finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict and, of course, addressing the root causes of the conflict. But bona fide Southern Cameroonians, Amazonians, have long lost hope in these toothless bulldogs that had long surrendered power to their executive and has remained just a mere window dressing.
Well, if it were not a toothless bulldog, other issues that the La Republic National Assembly could focus on are economic development, as the failed state faces more numerous economic challenges, corruption, embezzlement, including high unemployment rates, inflation, and a lack of access to basic service, job creation, poverty reduction, governance and democracy, human rights, freedom of expression, and the rule of law. But how can it, when so-called member of parliaments only look for ways to line their pockets with dubious franc CFA from fake contracts? CPDM member of parliaments in La Republic are more or less businessmen and women with constituencies in their briefcases, as many have long severe ties with their own constituents.
Well, except for the brand and the brainwash touched upon CPDM militants, no bona fide Amazonian should expect anything from today's opening session of Parliament in La Republique du Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé.
History has not forgotten that Buea was the headquarters of West Cameroon. History has not forgotten that Buea was the capital of Southern Cameroons. And history has not forgotten that Buea was once the capital of German Cameroon. That is why I say that Buea is a historic town. I am proud, very proud to be in Buea, proud to walk on the same soil like our heroes.
Moving away from the June parliamentary meeting, the ARFs of Kejom Keku, Big Babanki of Tuba local government area, has banned the CPDM fund of the village, His Royal Highness Benjamin Vutsibong Vubansi, from entering the village. The decision was made known to villagers recently by the Ambazonian Restoration Forces after the fund, who is resident and working in Yaoundé, had called for a colonial La Republic military post in the village. To this effect, and in consultation with the different village institutions, notables, and the elite in general, it has been unanimously agreed that a military post or station be established in the village to help or salvage these repeated acts of violence, looting, rape, and the general threat to public peace.
Well, immediately following the statement by the CPDM fund, who was reacting to the brutalization of Babanki women by traitors loyal to Cho Ayaba, they are reported to have destroyed and taken down the statue of the fawn constructed at the palace entrance of the village. While the Ambazonia Restoration Forces, after the letter from the CPDM fund, went directly to the palace and broke the fawn statue, shouting that he is anti-revolutionary and that any person who supports the colonial La Republic de Cameroon's military post in Babanki Tuba local government area wants their death, and so the fawn is a blackleg. Also, in the statement from the phone regarding the incident in the village, he had called on all Babanki people to ignore the tax levied on them by fighters loyal to Cho Ayaba's ADF.
Well, this is not the first time the Ambazonian Restoration Forces are issuing such ultimatums against all the CPDM royal beggars called chiefs across Ambaland. At the start of the Anglophone crisis in 2016, this very CPDM fund, due to his denunciations of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, referred to at that time only as Amba Boys, was banned from entering the village. Some notables and the Development Association executives are reported to have intervened and asked the Amazonian Restoration Forces to lift their ban, making it possible for their CPDM fund to visit his village and perform yearly rituals without being worried about attacks.
Well, on the breaking news of tonight, let's take a look at the fraudulent system in La Republic de Cameroon. Well, according to a post by Kemi Asho this morning, it explains deeply the case study of La Republic de Cameroon's bad system, which has been put in place by the BS government. At the end of the day, Southern Cameroonians are the targets and victims of this harsh tragedy. Well, according to the video, the gendarmes were seen going to withdraw money from someone's account. Now, do not forget that these same gendarmes are the same gendarmes that invaded Southern Cameroon in 1961 to oppress the people. These gendarmes will go as far as invading the privacy of denizens. Well, in this particular report, they took the tune of 300 francs CFA, but unfortunately for them, this person was led by a human rights activist, and of course, he knows his rights.
Well, as ABC Amba TV, we want to ensure that this images and report goes viral for the whole world to see. We have seen and given reports of police extortion from motorists to cycle owners to shop owners, but that's not all. We see numerous checkpoints from rapes, harassment, extortion, annexation, killing, and more negative vices. Well, on Kemi Ashu's wall, she writes, "This is a friend of mine whose phone was taken by a gendarme officer in Douala yesterday, the last control after Bekoko, and tagged him a scammer. Mr. Tambe Tiko, head of Human Rights and Freedoms, intervened immediately and retrieved his money. Look at the shameless thief holding a gun with no ID card himself," she writes. She goes on to express her unwavering stance and belief.
Well, this has been the plight of Southern Cameroonians for 62 years, harassed and treated like slaves for years, and that is why we fight for total freedom and complete restoration of our stolen independence. Meanwhile, another report just reaching out says that the Colonial Brigade commander of MIFOR, Queen Gendarmerie of Mazam County in the Midland Zone, was shot dead this afternoon, June 8, 2023, at Mbengui quarters by Amazonian Restoration Forces.
We're told that the command went with his element to intervene at Mbengui after hearing the Amazonian Restoration Forces were at Mbengui. They were ambushed, and unfortunately, he died. Makati News has promised to provide details much later, and the image you're seeing on screen has first been released by Kemi Ashu. We have our radar on the ground, and we bring you more details as they unfold. But I must say that this is an event, and its impact is impactful to the new government defense strategic framework on the ground via the federal government draft, as is quite eminent.
Mon ami, quand tu fais la vidéo, fais que ne soit pas. Je risque de te poser ce que tu dépassé.
No, not you, sir.
Non, je m'adresse à lui. Tu ne me filmes pas.
No. I will control that.
Oui, parce que les voix
No, I will control that. So, can I have your name? So ID card.
Je n'ai pas de carte d'enterrement, s'il vous plaît.
Mais monsieur, vous êtes, you are forces of law. You know the importance of an ID card. So write your name here. I will confirm with your boss. Écris votre nom là.
S'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît, je peux coller mon chef. Je peux coller mon chef.
Ton chef ici.
Ok, vraiment, quelques minutes, s'il vous plaît. Quelques minutes. C'est quoi?
Not be treating another Anglophone. It's not even a matter of Anglophone, Francophone. You don't treat Cameroonians like that. Somebody has 321,000 in his phone. You withdraw 370,000 and abandon him in Douala. I had to be called to leave Boya to come and fight for them. Is that normal? It's not normal. We have to stop this. You are disgracing this country. You are disgracing the head of state. We cannot accept this. This is the money that was taken from you, right?
Yes.
How much?
370,000.
Count it. Count it. Be sure that it is 370,000 francs. I want to be sure. Count it. Okay.
Well, in a related development, on the night of Tuesday, the ARFs of Donga Matron County gathered intelligence of an imminent spontaneous control on the civilian population by La Republic to Cameroon military in the vicinity of Undu town. The said control was aimed at harassing civilians and collecting money, as usual, under the pretext of security measures. Before they got a chance of waking up, the ARFs had surrounded the Ndu Brigade and their military camp at their Ndu Tea estates.
The ARFs launched a fierce attack on these two fronts for about 45 minutes, leaving many dead and injured. As reinforcement was called in, the Amazonian Restoration Forces made a tactical retreat. You could get rattling sounds of gunshots in an audio clip they sent out at press time, though the number of casualties were not established. Meanwhile, in a previous development, as reported by a Francophone blogger, Nzu Manto, an attack was launched by the dreaded Amazonian Restoration Forces of a Kondo Titi local government area at a checkpoint. The attack took place at about 8 p.m. at night, killing a youthful corporal, a man, and his colleague who could not be identified on the spot. When conflict outweighs peacekeeping endeavors, what's the way forward for peacekeepers? Well, with the conflict in the Central African Congo seemingly going out of control, a top United Nations official said yesterday, Wednesday, during a visit to the Republic of Congo, that peacekeepers should withdraw from the conflict-torn Central African country as quickly as possible, yet responsibly. Addressing reporters in the capital, Kinshasa, UN Under-Secretary General for Peacekeeping Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, also warned that the Congolese state had to step up its own response to armed groups to avoid creating a security void that would be fatal. Well, let's see this video courtesy of African News.
We're obviously going to continue this work and at the same time work with the Congolese authorities so that, as I said, the process of the Congolese state becoming more powerful will enable us to gradually reduce MONUSCO's presence, but to do so responsibly. Once again, I would like to stress that there must be no security vacuum, which would be fatal to these populations.
Democratic Republic of Congo, known as MONUSCO, is one of the largest and costliest in the world. With an annual budget of around $1 billion, it has been present in the country since 1999. The force has a current strength of about 16,000 uniformed personnel, mainly deployed in Congo's east, a mineral-rich region that militias have plagued for 3 decades. But the UN comes in for sharp criticism in Congo, where many people perceive the peacekeepers as failing to prevent violence. Dozens of people were killed during anti-UN protests last year.
Well, at the news conference in Kinshasa, Lacroix acknowledged frustration with the United Nations, with the levels of insecurity remaining alarming, but added that false rumors are also often spread about peacekeepers. Hundreds of thousands of displaced people in eastern Congo receive protection almost exclusively, he says, from UN troops. He also added, noting that those people often urge the UN to stay.
Well, nevertheless, Lacroix said the UN, responding to the demand of Congolese authorities, wants to withdraw as quickly as possible. But he stressed that the transition needs to be carried out in gradual and responsible way, and that there is need to have a rise in strength in the services of the state.
Now, the UN Under-Secretary General also explained that MONUSCO's mandate limits the help it can provide to other regional forces in eastern Congo. An East African Community military force is currently present in the region. Southern African states are also due to deploy troops. Armed groups have plagued much of eastern Congo for 3 decades, a list of regional wars that flared in the 1990s and 2000s.
While on such groups, the M23 has captured swaths of territory in North Kivu province since they're taking up arms again in late 2021 after years of dormancy. The rebel campaign has displaced over 1 million people. Well, according to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, from this top UN official's point of view, the peacekeepers should just leave the Republic of Congo with its conflict, instead of doing what the sole idea of peacekeeping organization is about, which would be to try to restore peace. So he's saying, just leave them to their way and their war.
Well, taking a more critical look at even the only months-old in South Sudan was made are the international community and the United Nations saying they could indeed not do anything to bring the war to a conclusive end or at least close to an end, or it's just not their problem, while the immediate evacuation of citizens and nothing conspicuous done. Well, a conspiracy theory Africans have come up with in recent times has it that the international community or the United Nations will not come to save any nation unless that nation or the international bodies have something to gain from those nations. One might be tempted to look into this conspiracy theory deeply. When was the last time these international bodies actually saved any nation after they called out to them for help? Well, that's just a food for thought.
While on the foreign scene, Germany has declined to join the UK in shipping long-range air-to-ground missiles to Ukraine. A few weeks back, the United Kingdom said it would ship some missiles to Ukraine. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said that Germany does not plan to supply Ukraine with Taurus cruise missiles, but may consider its position on providing modern Western fighter jets.
Well, Germany will not hand over long-range Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine at the moment, Pistorius said. What is a Taurus? The Taurus is a precision-guided missile with a range of 500 kilometers, that is 311 miles, and is able to destroy major underground facilities, including bunkers, with pinpoint accuracy. The missile is equipped with stealth characteristics that will allow it to avoid radar detection before hitting targets. The missile also has countermeasures as a self-defense mechanism and electronic countermeasures.
Well, Taurus is a product of Taurus System GmbH, a joint venture between the MBDA Deutschland GmbH and the Saab Dynamics, which is AB for the development, production, and global marketing of the Taurus standoff missile family for precision strike. Ukraine has asked Germany for Taurus cruise missiles to carry out its long-anticipated counteroffensive. Kyiv says it needs more weapons, including long-range missiles, to defend itself against Russian attacks and recapture its occupied territory.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, demoralized Russian troops accidentally drowned their own armed drone in the eastern part of Crimea, and state media claimed it was a Ukrainian drone. The country's defense ministry also said it jammed the drone with electronic warfare. There were no serious injuries, Russian authorities say. A part of the drone's wing is visible in some of the released images, leading the aviation experts and OSINT specialists to conclude the aircraft is Mohajer 6, an Iranian-made combat drone that has been used by Russians in the war against Ukraine. Now, the drone has a rectangular fuselage, an upward sloping nose, twin tail booms, a top-mounted horizontal stabilizer, uncanted wingtips, straight wings mounted high and to the rear of the body, and air intakes on the top and bottom of the Rotax aircraft engine. It is worthy to note that earlier Iranian ambassador to Ukraine denied supplying unmanned aerial vehicles to Russia. Tehran had previously said Iran would not assist either side in the war as it backed its resolution through dialogue.
Right, and with that foreign news, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major highlights.
On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you the Colonial DO vowing to stop ghost town in Mbengui and the denizens being at loggerheads with him. Also, we told you the Midland zone of Amazonia deprived of a football pitch as Bamenda Municipal Stadium has been an abandoned treasure. The waste management beats Lara Public Surrogates in Bamenda. Population faces stench of garbage heaps on a daily basis.
All right, tonight we told you that unpaid salaries, workers were laid off of the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company. While also tonight, the CPDM fund of Babanki to the local government area was banned from entering his village. The ARFs of Dongamatu County launched a preemptive attack from two fronts. Also, on the African scene, we talked about the conflict outweighing peacekeeping. And, of course, Germany refuses the Taurus missile deliveries to Ukraine. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on Touch Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor, Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night, and God bless you.